the contributions that we made to the new Jenkins pipeline that is used for all the different contributions that we are creating on GitLab and Gerrit repositories. Okay. This is the agenda. This is just an introduction of how the idea is to make OSM friendlier to end users and developers, how we are going to focus on these self-contained repositories to reduce the dependency between modules, the new pipeline, the current status of the pipeline, and a quick demo. Let's start with the introduction. The reason why we are doing this Jenkins new pipeline is because we want to make OSM friendlier to end users and developers. We identify, let's put this here, we identify in the past that we should reduce like the dependence between modules, because in the past we are using some dependencies from different modules and the graph for those dependencies were complex. So now we are trying to simplify those dependencies and and one of the things that allow us to simplify those dependencies is to create these self-contained repositories with the new pipeline and with a new light and more secure Docker file. Okay. This reduction is described here in this feature of OSM. You can check the URL and see why we are creating this, and the reason why we are creating this new Jenkins file and this new Docker file in each repository or in each module of OSM, right? This is going to create like a standardized Docker image. Remember that we are using Tox for all the tests running. So this is one of the reasons why we are just standardizing this Docker file in each repo. We are also refactoring and doing some migration to individual module repositories just to try to avoid the use of the DevOps repo, try to avoid that dependence to a mono repo that in this case is DevOps. They don't use any Debian package. Use always the Python modules or the Python libraries for this, just to allow us to install those dependencies directly using pip and avoid any use of apt or any other Debian package manager. We have this new pipeline per repo, so we have those three phases, and we are just simplifying everything to have everything just in one Docker file. Okay. The new pipeline, it's basically built on two general, let's say, stages. The stage one, and this is like what the first execution that you can see on the Jenkins user interface, is how we are going to execute the unit test for each repo. And the stage two is the functional test for the change that we are making. We can split this stage one like in these steps, where we have a license scan, a download of the test image or the latest test image that we have, the execution of the unit tests. In this case, we have unit test and lint testing, the creation of this change log, the build and push the image in the local repo of Jenkins to execute and test the contribution that we are making, because it's very important to have like the latest contribution we have on the Jenkins execution, and the execution of the functional tests for that contribution that we made in the steps or in the open merge request. I'm going to show you that in the next slides. After that, if everything is okay, we can promote the image, because that means that the image is already in a good stage. This is going to happen when the contribution is merged to the main branch. This is not going to happen in any open merge request. This is a filter that we have on the stage one. And the stage two is basically how we are building an environment, an ephemeral environment to test that functional testing the contribution that we are making on the particular module or repository, right? So we are going to create a virtual machine, check everything before the installation, install OSM, deploy a virtual cluster on the same cluster of OSM, and after that we are going to execute the functional testing using the robot framework. We can see that, or we can see the features and the benefits of this new Jenkins file in this slide. So we are creating this Jenkins file.new to modeling the new pipeline. That pipeline is invoked by a multi-branch pipeline job. So whenever a merge request is open or a contribution is merged to one of the protected branch, such as master, B19, B18, etc., the pipeline is going to be executed, as I showed you in the previous presentation. Once a merge request is merged, the existing job for the merge request will be disabled. This is something that Jenkins allow us for the integration. So this is going to keep like the Jenkins environment clean in terms of the amount of jobs that you can see on the user interface. This is a big difference in this new multi-branch pipeline job in comparison with the latest one that we have. If you update your source branch in a merge request, because that usually happens when someone asks for a change on that source branch or on the contribution, the pipeline will be executed again with that latest change that you made on that source branch. And after that, you will see how the pipeline is going to be executed again and how the tests are going to be made with that latest contribution. And you can now test in the Jenkins file new of each module without needing to use a replay in Jenkins. This is very important. If you modify the Jenkins file, you can test that actual Jenkins file, the modified Jenkins file, instead of the one that is already merged in the master branch. This is a very important good point about this integration between GitLab and Jenkins. That is, you can test now like the changes in a real state without the use of the replay. And in the DevOps repo, as usual, we have a new pipeline for this called CI end-to-end test.groovy, in spite of the existing one divided in 3 stages. So the current status is that an example with an open merge request, I already showed you that when we create a merge request, you are going to see how this is going to create. Let's take the test repository as example. This is going to create a job in the multi-branch pipeline that you can see on the merge request height. In Jenkins, we have configured that for scan every minute for new events, such as push commits to a source branch, or in an open merge request. And you can check in with the same name of the contribution that you are creating, like a new job was created. And in that hyperlink, you can check all the steps for the new pipeline. This is a very important contribution where you can check also, or you can monitor like the functional testing of that contribution. So this is all that I have to tell you about contributions. So let's go to a demo time before questions. So let's create let's create another contribution here. So let's update the README file again. Let's take the test repository that is cloned via GitLab, and let's modify again the same file, but I'm going to use a different name for this contribution. So let's do a Dockerfile production here. I'm going to add that README file to the staging local. I'm going to, let me create a new branch for the instructions Docker. As you can see in the status, we have that file here. So let's contribute that file. Remember to assign your commits. It's very important for GitLab. Update Docker instructions, here readme, update Docker. Let's do Docker commands. Docker build command in readme. Let's use the passphrase you have for your GPG key. And let's contribute this branch to the remote repository. So in GitLab, as I showed you before, you are going to see that we create on the test repo a new branch with that name. Update Docker instructions Docker. But you are not going to see any pipeline if you don't create the merge request for that. You can see that here. So let's create a merge request for that branch. Let's just state Docker readme instructions. If I create the merge request, you are going to see on the merge request side, after a minute or a couple of seconds, it depends of what the cache is. Let's wait just a minute for that. This is the change that we made. And yeah, just to make this faster, this is the previous merge request that we create, and you're going to see how the pipeline is executed here. So if I'm going to that execution, you are going to see on the output like the steps for the new pipeline, right? So you can see how, let me open the full log. You can see how at the beginning of the pipeline, we are checking out like the latest change that we have on the remote repo. And after that, we are going to build all the container and we are going to do all the tests based on that change. You can see how we are cloning the DevOps repo here just to use the tools that we already have there. You can see how we are doing the license scan. And after that, we are doing some tests, in this case, safety tests, unit tests, linting tests. And this is like the result of the linting testing. You can see how we are building like the container based on that contribution that we are going to call also with the same name of the branch, right? And after that, you can see how the container is pushed to the, wait a minute, this is here in the logs. You can see how the container is pushed to, this is just the part of the building process. And you can see how the container is pushed to a local repository. That is this one. This repository just exists on this Jenkins agent because it's the way that we are going to test that in the functional testing side. And you can see how we are triggering a new pipeline here. That is the other one. And that pipeline is the pipeline used for the unit testing. Okay, so here you can see how we are preparing a remote virtual machine. And in that remote virtual machine, you can see that here, this one, this is going to be the remote virtual machine. That is an OpenStack environment. You are going to create in this virtual machine, or you are going to install OSM, and OSM is going to be patched, of course, with the contribution you made here. So if you are contributing, for example, for the LCM module, you are going to have the LCM module here with that latest change. And after that, I don't know if it's already here, we are going to execute the unit test, the functional testing. You cannot see that here, but I'm going to show you another pipeline. You can see here how the other merge request is already triggered, the update Docker build command in README file. And let me show you how in this one, in the console output, here in the second one, you can see how we already execute some robot tests. That is these ones for sanity. And the result and the logs is also storing Jenkins for any troubleshooting that you want to do. After that, you can check just in the summary, like here, what is the status of the robot test, and you can check why they fail. And probably that is a good hint to solve your contribution or to adjust your contribution based on that. And that's how the new pipeline works. If everything goes okay, you can see here in the README, also in the contribution, you can check here in the second pipeline that this Jenkins is executed. So you can also monitor the state of that Jenkins pipeline from the GitLab interface. And after that, if everything is okay, everything is going to be marked as okay. And this is a good way for the assignee or the reviewer that the change is good to merge, right? And that's all that I want to tell you about this new pipeline. So any question?